to order. It is 6:34. Pledge of Allegiance, please. All rise. Well, we'll have that said by Mr. McGinnis.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible.
Next, we have a few announcements. Number one, we had a executive session this evening to talk about personnel matters. There will be two public hearings scheduled for tomorrow, December 18th at 6:30. Number one, Chapter 89 Sewers, and two, Chapter 104 Vehicles and Traffic. Just a reminder, amendments and notices can be found on the website. Three, there is a vacancy on the Westchester Borough Planning Commission. So if you know anyone, we'll be accepting resumes for folks to interview next month. Next, we'll have comments, suggestions, petitions by residents and attendants regarding items that are not on the agenda. Mr. Cook.
Darrell Cook, South Walnut Street. My High Street report. And Sunday afternoon, an Owen J. Roberts school bus was headed south on 600 South High Street at University Avenue. It tried to make a turn. It was unable to do so without backing up. Construction was not complete at the time. Roll delivery truck at Bernard Street had to take out both lanes to pull out from wherever it was, and had to take out both lanes to back into the store on the corner at Bernard Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to reports and presentations, of which we have none this evening. Next, old business. Approve the minutes of the November 19th and November 2024 Borough Council meetings. Any comments, suggestions? Okay, we'll call that a 6-0. Next, new business. We have a bunch of commissions, boards, committees, interviews this evening for various boards. Just a heads up on one of them, the Westchester Library Board. We had a late resume come in, and so we are going to table that particular one until January 14th. So the first one is the Civil Service Commission. Rich Eagles.
Thank you, council members. My name is Rich Eagles. I'm a resident of the borough, lives at 400 South Church Street in Ward 3. I'm also the majority inspector of elections of Ward 3 and enjoy serving the council. I've been an alternate on the Civil Service Commission for the last half year or so and helped author the new Civil Service Commission rules. And I look forward to the opportunity to serve the Civil Service Commission as a permanent member for at least the next 6 years, according to the rules. I will happy to answer any questions that you may have on my resume or qualifications to do so.
Thank you. Council, comments or questions?
Mr. Eagles, when you said you helped author the revisions that we did, what type of work did you actually do with the committee? Can you?
So the committee met to review the rules with legal counsel, providing insight on both state regulations and inconsistencies with the borough's rule system. As an alternate, I am not a voting member, but whenever there's a voting member that's not there, I act as a voting member on the council. I reviewed the questionnaire as a citizen at the time. I was an alternate that was serving. I made multiple recommendations of places where the rules were inconsistent or where there was some issues that could be resolved to streamline our processes. Things like when we say we have to receive a physical application for a police officer at the Borough Hall, we want to move to an electronic application process. That was also at one of the meetings that I was attending. The electronic application is receiving here, so we don't necessarily have to have that secondary process. There was a variety of other recommendations I made, and then the council, the acting 3 members agreed that those were good recommendations, and they were incorporated into the version that you all voted on. At the point at which we approved those sessions, one of the members was not present, so I was an acting member. I was the one that voted to send them to council to be approved.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We have one vacancy and one candidate. You have a impressive resume and done some good work for the commission so far. So, council, any objections? Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Next, we have the committee to reestablish rail service to Westchester. We have 4 vacancies. And the first one up is Barbara Clark, who is a non-resident.
Good evening, Borough Council. I'm Barbara Clark. I've served on the Sustainable Advisory Committee for quite a few years now, and I have this opportunity, and I'm really excited about also serving on the reestablishing the rail service, particularly introducing an all-electric train. I know there's a lot of discussion. There's a lot of hurdles but I'd be really glad to be on that committee. And I feel like it's a worthwhile environmental and would serve the community very beautifully. So I am a registered architect. I focus on sustainability. My main focus right now is doing building assessments and heading towards all electric. So getting away from fossil fuels and that sort of thing. So I'm dedicating my whole professional life to this effort. Any questions?
Any questions? No? Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Sounds like we're on consensus here for Barbara. Okay, next we have Charlotte Barker.
Hello, Borough Council. My name's Charlotte Barker. I'm a resident of the borough. I own, now that I count them, 3 businesses here in Westchester. Ginkgo Arts, Ginkgo Properties, which is the building, and then Wood for Water, a charity nonprofit I started 5.5 years ago. That I make things in my garage and sell them at Ginkgo Arts. All the money goes to get clean drinking water for people worldwide. My interest in being on the committee is because I love it when I take the train into Philadelphia. It's so easy. Everybody can do it. I can take the train into New York and it's easy. When I travel abroad, train is how everybody can travel. It is nice for people of all income levels, all ages. It crosses all boundaries. It benefits all people. And I'd like to see what it can do here in Westchester that would be practical and help many people here.
Thank you very much. Council, any questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sounds like we're on consensus for Charlotte. Okay, next we have Liz Young.
Hi, guys. I'm Liz Young, relatively new resident to the borough, moved from the New York City area, New York City itself, and Hoboken, New Jersey. Lived there for 2 decades. Moved here, interested in being on the council for reestablishing rail because it's how I lived for 2 decades. And it's a little tough for me to get to my office in New York City because I have to have transportation to Exton. It's hard for me to get to Philadelphia because I have to have transportation to Exton. So I agree with everything Charlotte just said. I don't know her, but everything she just said, I echo all of that. And I would like to help in any way. I'm a business owner. I am the CEO of a software development company that is located in New York City. I'm also co-founder of a couple of other technology-based companies, and I'm on the board of directors for an elementary school and a telemedicine platform, oddly. So I think I can help in some way, and I'd like to try.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Welcome to Westchester.
Thanks.
Thank you. Sounds like we're in consensus. Okay, next we have Kimberly Bove.
Hi, good evening, Borough Council. I'm Kim Bove. Like Liz, I am new to Westchester. I moved in May. I'm on the 300 block of South Walnut. I am extremely interested in joining the council. I born and raised in Philadelphia. I've taken public transportation my entire life, starting at a very early age. I think it's kind of odd that my kids are now like 20 and like haven't been on, the train to New York. So I know that's part of that is my fault. But I think it's a pastime that some people haven't experienced. And I think we need that here in an old town. I am an executive at AstraZeneca Pharmaceuticals. My expertise is contracting with physicians, health systems, pharmacies to get access to medicines, life-saving medicines, mainly oncology products. And so I understand the complexities of logistically getting things to and from. And so I think that would serve as a great purpose on this committee, as well as I have been responsible for transitioning all of my field folks into all EV vehicles, which isn't real easy when you have representatives that need to get to far places. And so I know the challenges that exist there. I am an EV owner. I will be applying for a permit for chargers in-house that I see around the borough. So I think it's a great opportunity too, with the opportunity to have an all-electric train vehicle. I think that's an opportunity that we don't want to lose, especially when they're willing to work with the borough on this. So super excited and looking forward to working with everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Council, comments, questions? Again, welcome to the borough. Nice to see new folks being interested in serving. Appreciate that. So it sounds like we have consensus on Kimberly as well. Okay, moving on to the HARB, the Historic Architectural Review Board. We have one vacancy, and we have now two candidates, Marissa McCarthy and Laura McLean. Rich Highland withdrew his consideration for the position. So we'll start with Marissa. Is Marissa here?
Hello, my name is Marissa McCarthy, a newer resident of Westchester, 2 years now with my husband and almost 3-year-old. My background is in interior design. I have my bachelor's degree from an accredited university. And interior design, it does encapsulate interior architecture as well. So that's where my background comes in. I am really passionate about historic preservation. I am not right now, but I am going to pursue my master's in historic preservation and really just excited about it. I forget who said it. Somebody said the greenest building is one that already exists. I love the architecture in the area, in Philadelphia, wherever I travel, I love to see it. So it's just something I'm passionate about.
Thank you very much. Council, any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Next, we have Laura McLean.
Hi, council members. Thank you so much for speaking with me tonight. My name is Laura McLean. I am a long-term borough resident. I've been here for more than 10 years with my husband. We actually live 1 block away, right up around the corner on Penn Street. Like Marissa, I have a background in architecture. I worked primarily in marketing and business development for over a decade. And I have a passion for historic architecture specifically. It's actually one of the reasons that I moved from Philadelphia to Westchester originally. I think the buildings here are absolutely stunning. The history of the town is something that I was incredibly drawn to. And So some of the newer developments that I've been seeing coming up in town have kind of been hurting my heart a little bit because they all kind of look the same and they're all brown boxes. So that's why this particular board position was of interest to me. I do have my name on 3 different particular committees. I was pretty clear in my email originally that I'm interested in only one. So I want to make that abundantly clear. But historic architecture is definitely a very large passion of mine.
Thank you very much. Council, questions, comments? So I have just one question. The Harb would be your first choice is what you're
Correct,
saying?
yes.
Okay.
And sustainability second, and then recreation third.
Okay. Thank you very much. I
You're
appreciate it.
Thank you.
So council, we have 2 candidates for this position. I'd like to discuss either the candidates for consideration. I mean, I think you both have, your passion for architecture, which I appreciate. And Marissa has a interior background design, so some design experience. And I know from reading many of the Harb reviews, there's lots of design elements to all of their reviews. My personal opinion is that although I very much appreciate Laura's passion for historic buildings and so forth, I think in this case, Marissa may be a candidate that would work well with the Harb.
I'm in agreement with that.
Okay, we can have further discussion tomorrow evening or other comments.
I'm good with that too. I'm sorry, I'm not used to this process. It used to be that I thought I would watch and you guys would talk about it like the next day and then come out and then like I didn't, so I'm not prepared for conversation. Is that?
Okay, we
how
don't
is
have to make
process
the
work?
decision this evening. We should make it tomorrow. So we can have further discussion tomorrow on the candidates. Thank you. Okay, the next commission is Recreation. Again, we have 1 vacancy. We have Josh Carter, Laura
Mr.
McLean.
President, did you intentionally skip over the library board? There are people here present tonight if you want to talk to them.
Okay, oh yeah, I'm sorry. We can, as I mentioned before, will not make a decision until next month, but since you're here, yes, absolutely. Sorry about that. So Denise Polk and Shirley Leclerc. Yeah, the third candidate that we had was unavailable this month, and as I understand it, has withdrawn, but we had another resume come in, which is why we are putting that decision off until next month. So Denise Polk, did I hear she's online? Okay. How about Shirley Leclerc? Okay.
Well, wait a minute. There's 1 vacancy and 1 person showed up.
Hi, my name is Shirley Leclerc. I am a resident of Westtown. As you can see from my resume, I have 30 years experience in the libraries, public school libraries, mostly high school. A small portion of that was middle school. So I come to the position with a lot of experience. And I think that experience would transform well into the commission. So, or I'm sorry, the committee. So if you have any questions, I think I'm here to answer them.
Council, any questions?
No questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, sorry for that miscommunication here. We will move on to the Recreation Committee. 1 vacancy, and we'll start with Joshua Carter.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Josh Carter. I'm a resident of the borough and have been for 11 years. I live on the 100 block of East Bernard Street. I'm particularly interested in this council or for this commission because I have 3 small children. They are 9, 7, and 4. So we are constantly at the parks, which is a lot of fun. But one of the things I find disappointing is often we are at the parks that are outside of our own ward. We have to go to a different park to meet up with friends or because my kids enjoy the other parks a little bit more, which is totally fine. I understand that there should be a diversity in the types of offerings for each park, but we rarely are at our own park. So looking forward to spending time on this particular commission and working with all of you to make sure there's equity among the different offerings at each of the parks. Professionally, I have a background in project management and finance.
Thank you very much, Council. Just to clarify, you are a resident. You said you're on East Bernard.
Correct, yes.
Okay, great, thanks.
So, Mr. Carter, you're in Ward 2?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the next candidate, Rich Beluto, he withdrew his application. We had Laura McLean. If you'd want to speak to the rec commission position.
Specific points for each, so thank you. But specifically regarding the Recreation Committee, again, as a long-term borough member, I've actually lived several different pockets of town, so pretty familiar with many of the facilities that we're blessed to have here. One of the things that I've always noticed in all of the different areas that we've lived particularly is the lack of accessibility for biking. Typically, whenever we bike anywhere, we have to put our bike in our vehicles and then drive somewhere to bike, which is kind of disappointing to me. One of my criteria when we purchased our home here was I need to be able to walk to town from wherever the house is. And, being able to bike is just as important to me. I would prefer, much like many of the people that spoke about bringing the trains back to Westchester, to not have to drive if possible. And biking is just something that I really enjoy to do. So that was something that, as part of the survey that I took for the Recreation Committee last month, was something that I really focused on. And I think it's something that, in addition to the facilities themselves, could be of great consideration from the Recreation Board.
Thank you very much.
Laura,
Comments?
can I make one comment? Laura, sorry. This is a little out of line, but the Transportation Advisory Committee is a new committee that we're forming, and it's very much, it's not only about biking, but it's about sort of all the ways that people can get around Westchester. And how many openings are on that?
A total of 5 to 7, with one of those being a liaison to the rail committee. So we have 4 candidates, so we have 3 additional roles, well, 2. Yeah.
I don't mean to push you anywhere, but yeah, some of the things you're saying, I'm like, can you just, it's a new committee, so I want people to be on there. Not that you shouldn't be on these others, but I might like you there.
Thank you.
No, yeah, no, I'll piggyback. That's exactly every time you said the word bike, it's like, ding, so yeah, and yeah, we've got this transportation as well, depending on, the rail as well, although I think we had as many openings as applicants for the rail. That was also going through my mind with the rail committee members, a couple of you at least mentioned not just rail, but EVs and other types of sustainable transportation. So keep that in mind. If you don't get the committee that you want tonight, maybe there's another one out there that could use your help. So
thank you all very much.
I missed your address. You said you live in the borough. Where?
Yes, North Penn Street.
Oh, no. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Dan Meehan.
Good evening, everyone. Dana, thank you for getting me here. Thank you. So my name is Dan Meehan. I actually live in Westtown. Been married 35 years, have 2 children. Although we live in Westtown, we love the borough. We spend a lot of our time in the borough, whether it be the restaurants, the crafts, and everything. We would close down the streets, all the crafts and things. We just really enjoy that. I have 2 grown children, and they both also love the borough. Professionally, recently retired from Boeing helicopters after 40 years. My professional experience leads to my time in facilities where we implemented many things at the site relative to pedestrian paths, the separation and barriers between pedestrian and vehicles, walkways, making them safe for our pedestrians, parking lighting, making sure it's adequate for pedestrian, for employees to go to their vehicles. Every year planting trees at Earth Day, having benches at different spots at the site, places where you can lock your bicycles up. So I think that our teams had done a lot around this site that I think can translate to the Park and Recreations Committee. And I think it's an exciting time now that we have the survey out there. I think that it's a great time to get the feedback and try to improve in some of the things that we have around the borough. So I do have interest and I do have time, and I would like to be a member of that committee and work along with many, many other people to make improvements in the borough.
Thank you very much. Comments and questions?
I'm going to make a similar comment that your expertise seemed like it fits on the Transportation Advisory Committee. But maybe I'm pushing that one too hard.
Okay. Okay.
Hey, Mayor, forgot our question. Maybe she'll remember it later.
That's okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next, we have
Oh,
Lauren.
I know my question. Did you take the survey?
I did not,
Okay.
but I will. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Lawrence Cohen.
Good evening, members of council. I'm Lawrence Cohen, relatively new resident of the borough. Live over in Chestnut Square. Been there for almost 3 years. Prior to that, lived in Westchester still, but once I was able to move my grown children out of the house, my wife and I moved into the borough and are enjoying it. My background is, right now I'm a professor at Drexel University in the sport business department, and I spent my career in sports and entertainment. And by extension, I think recreation. And just from a philosophical standpoint, I view recreation as one of those things in this world that brings people together across demographic lines, across socioeconomic lines. And I think that the borough serving on this commission would give me an opportunity to do that here. And, you know, I certainly welcome your questions. You guys have been pretty quiet on questions, but I'll welcome any that you may have.
Thank you. Council? Well, this is giving us a run here of some tough decisions, some really good candidates, and lots of relatively new residents. Welcome.
I did have one question. Did you take the Parks and Rec survey?
No, ma'am. I've watched your council meetings and I heard, I think it's Keith talk about it and the results coming in, but no, I have not taken that.
And I did want to ask that question of Mr. Carter, since I asked it of everyone else. Actually, you took the survey? Okay, thank you.
Is the survey still open, by the way, Mr. Metrick? Yeah, so you can go on the website and access it there. So encourage everyone to do that if you haven't already.
And I heard you say you took it. Okay, thank you.
It's pretty quick, and it's actually a pretty neat little survey tool they have up on there. Okay, next we have the Sustainability Advisory Commission, one vacancy and 2 candidates, both of whom have talked with us about other positions. Laura McLean being number 1.
Again, so just to echo some of my comments from the HARP interview, but sustainability was definitely a passion of mine in all of my time in construction and architecture. Being in the position that I was in, I had to be doing a lot of research as well as interviewing of clients and the architects themselves to understand the sustainability aspects of some of the projects that we were going after that were either seeking certification or just building to those standards. And it was something that I really appreciated in the pursuit of the project, but also noticed a lot of the times that after the certification was acquired, those wonderful shiny practices that were included in the initial application started to kind of peter off. So it's definitely something that I think is important. I think that it's something that needs continued focus. And as mentioned, is definitely a passion of mine as a resident as well.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Promise you're done with me tonight.
And Lawrence Cohen for the Sustainability Advisory Commission.
Well, nice to see you all again so soon. So sustainability has become a passion of mine. I created a course at Drexel for corporate social responsibility in sport. And I think sustainability, I know everybody likes to focus on sort of energy and things like that, but it's really a much broader topic. Not that I'm going to lecture, this isn't a lecture. But I think that I would like to contribute to what that looks like here in the borough. You know, I was inspired, sorry, I'm going to go off on a tangent a little bit, by Climate Pledge Arena, because it's my background, what they've done in Seattle relative to making an arena that's sustainable. And I was recently in Greece, and the ancient theater of Epidaurus, which was built in 4th century BC, that they still use it. And here in this country, we replace our arenas after 30 years. Like, seems kind of crazy to me. So I'm just very passionate about finding ways to make it all work so that our kids and grandkids and great grandkids have a planet that they can appreciate.
Thank you very much. Go Dragons. Okay, again, we have, one vacancy and 2 candidates, and both good candidates. Moving on to the new committee, the Transportation Advisory Committee, we have 4 candidates. I understand Jim Wiley is joining us by video. Welcome, Jim.
Yeah, hi, folks. Jim Wiley. I'm a resident on West Lafayette Street. Thank you for accommodating me. It turns out, COVID hasn't gone away, so I appreciate that. I feel fine, but the little test thing says I'm still contagious, so I'll keep you guys safe. So my wife and I live in Ward 7. We're a single car family. My wife has an electric vehicle. I have a bicycle. I'm a big bike advocate. Some of you may know. I also have some experience with the Chester County Planning Commission and their Environmental Advisory Board. I served on for 4 years. I'm stepping back at the end of this year, but I have a lot of connections there, including Rachel Griffith and some folks in the transportation and trails programs at the county and DVRPC. I would suggest that transportation is an area that needs to be a team sport, and we need to communicate with our neighbors and make sure we're on the same page when doing, roads planning, trails planning, and stuff like that. I'd also like to bring up that a challenge that I see in the borough is having an equitable transition to electric vehicles, and I think that's a challenge that needs some thought. While I have experience with bikes and trails and pedestrian stuff, I think I can contribute to road planning and public transportation challenges and other stuff like that in the borough. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions, council? Thank you, Jim. Okay, we will move on to John O'Brien, the John O'Brien.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is John O'Brien. I know many of you. I currently serve as the Executive Director for Downtown Westchester. I'm a former borough resident, recently moved to East Bradford. It's tough to find affordable housing in the borough. So I have my wife and son, and we actually have one on the way, May 13th. We'll have a new one. I don't think I've told you all that. So we needed a little bit more space, which was what kind of pushed us into moving. This seemed like a natural fit. I was very excited the council moved with this. I've worked on a lot of transportation issues already, whether it's SEPTA microbusing. I was texting with Ramsey today about the implementation of Flowbird. We've worked with Sheila on loading zones and deliveries in the downtown. I've talked to many of you about somewhat of a passion project. I think the borough could implement a Rails to Trails program along the existing rail line, because we've talked, folks have mentioned about biking. That seems like an achievable goal that will enhance the lives of people both within the borough and outside the borough, drives more people into the town. I've worked with the Rail Restoration Committee before. I have experience prior to this. I worked for the House of Representatives as in the Appropriations Committee. So I'm very well versed in, whether it's PennDOT or grant funding that is available. So I just really wanted to make sure my organization was part of this effort. And another thing I would really like this committee to focus on is pedestrian. We've talked a lot about biking and parking. Pedestrian walkability is a big piece. The borough has done a fantastic job with what we're doing on South High Street. There are other areas, especially along East Market Street and East Gay Street. I know I've probably talked to many of you individually about that. With traffic calming measures, I believe are kind of necessary to create walkability, especially from areas like the Second Ward into town. With the way the streets are structured right now, it kind of cuts those parts of town off and doesn't make it feel accessible for everyone, which has been a long-term goal of my organization. So, and I think this committee can be part of bringing all of that together to guide the borough forward. So that is long and short of my interest in this committee. Is there any questions?
Thank you. Comments, questions?
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Okay, next we have Patty Shields.
Hello, Mayor and Borough Council. My name is Patty Shields. I'm the Assistant Vice President at Westchester. I am a non-resident. However, I spend a lot of time at Westchester within the borough. Did I mention a lot of time? I bring over 30 years in facilities, higher education. I have since at Westchester for 8 years, I oversee the fleet and motor pool. I served on TMAC board for 3 years. I serve at the University Sustainability Council, as well as the subcommittee for transportation. In my role, we are constantly thinking about how to improve transportation for our students, faculty, and staff. That is probably every day that we're looking at that. I've been able to bring propane buses, even though it's not electric, kind of tried to make that middle step to bring propane onto campus for our busing, because the one argument or complaint we would always get from residents, the buses are too loud. Can they stop using the air brakes? And so propane has been a much more quiet way to go for us. So with that, I'm interested in joining the Transportation Advisory Committee because I'm passionate about improving transportation systems and their impact to the community.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Thank you. And next we have Rayat.
Good evening. I'm Ray Ott, live at 427 West Union Street. I've been living and walking to work in the borough since 1978. So I feel very fortunate having that opportunity. And I've been a planning consultant, city planner for 45 years. And most recently, I was a Phoenixville's borough planner for 25 years. Also in my practice, I did a lot of community-wide trail plans for townships like Euclid, Upper Euclid, Franklin. I can't think of others, but I've done several of those. I also did the master plan and actually worked on the construction documents for the Schuylkill River Trail through Phoenixville. And I also worked on alignment for the East Coast Greenway along the Delaware River through Chester, Eddystone Borough in in Delaware County. In term, I looked at your listings online about what you want the Transportation Advisory Committee to do. It's pretty ambitious. One of the things that I noted here is that you want it to, and it says it needs to be fleshed out. Conduct a 2025 multimodal transportation study. That's a lot to ask. Commission, that whatever. So I'm familiar with what you've written out here, and I understand this is kind of a draft as to where you're going to go with it. In terms of public transportation, I use it whenever I have to. I've used it a lot, you know, into Philadelphia. A little anecdote: I used to take the train from Westchester to Philadelphia, and I was on Borough Council when we did a grant application that SEPTA asked us to put a crossing guard on Neal Street and I think Bernard Street. And then that year they stopped service to Westchester. And when they asked us to, I would happen to be on Borough Council, and they asked Borough Council to cough up their share of the grant. We got them to write a letter back saying, we'll give you our share when we get the train back. And that was 1986. So we've been waiting a long time. My general attitude is that I think people will use transportation alternatives if they know how to. My experience is when I try and get people to take the train, take a bus or whatever, is they just don't, they're not familiar with the process and they don't know how to do it. And I think that's a major thing that could, you know, that we could work on to try and help advance that. Obviously, you got to make it available, and God knows if we'll ever get a train back, but that'd be a nice thing. But at any rate, anyone has any questions?
All right.
All right.
Thank you. Lots of terrific candidates. This will be some tough decisions, and that we'll talk about tomorrow. So thank you all for volunteering your time. I appreciate it, and coming here tonight to interview with us. Okay, we will move on to item B, Administration, Communication, and Technology. Mr. Travis is not here tonight, so I'll go for him. First one was a motion to approve amendments to the Transportation Advisory Committee ordinance and to schedule a public hearing on January 15th. This issue was reviewing amendments and scheduling the hearing. It was a committee recommendation 3-0. Anyone on the committee have any concerns? Okay, looks like we have consensus on that. Number 2, discuss the amendments to rules and procedures of Borough Council. The issue being review the procedures and policies of conducting Borough Council meetings, in particular council committee meetings. Meeting agenda, new items that not administratively routine shall be discussed for at least 2 committee meetings prior to the recommendation to council for action.
I think I sent over a comment that I felt like 2 meetings to have that standard could slow us down. I mean, I'm all for having enough time to think about things, but to standardize that we have to go through 2 months all the time of anything that comes up, I thought that was a little excessive. And so I'm not sure this is ready for prime time. I think that the committee may want to take one more look at a couple of nuances in it.
Yeah, I agree that, and I heard the discussion last week, and that seemed to be a point of quite a bit of discussion. And I agree, it shouldn't be a precedent or a requirement that a topic be carried for 2 months before it's passed or declined. Certainly, there are occasions when that happens. We just went through a 2-year process with the short-term rental, but I don't think it should be a requirement.
I just want to, I feel very similarly. However, in this discussion, the way it was written, and the topic of the low-income housing being rushed through, it almost seemed that this was required based on what we were trying to do. And I agree with both of you. So like, I have a really hard time with this. I'm part of the reason we had so much discussion about it. The fear was initially, we didn't want anything to get pushed as quickly as, yes, interrupt, please tell me
Yeah,
something.
Well,
Respond.
because I want to make sure we are clear, and I don't think people were clear. That low income housing was not rushed through. There was no one on the smart growth committee that was like, yeah, let's do this. We just said, hey, we should discuss it. I think when it got on the agenda, it got confused. And people thought that we were approving it and wanting it to push through and all of those things. And we were not. We were clearly not. And we've kind of changed the way we put things on the agenda since then because it did create a lot of confusion. And the good news is we saw a lot of support from the community and the things that they wanted. But the bad news is that they were somewhat got misinformation thinking that we had any intention of moving that through or trying to push that through the work session as it stood, the way it was presented. And that not that low income housing is not important, but that place, that location, all of the things about it, we all felt the same thing on smart growth. So if you're using that as your baseline for this meeting, I think that you should throw that out because there were miscommunications involved, not this wasn't a process that we were trying to push through.
I appreciate that clarification because I was very much only holding that up because that was what was the reason behind this conversation. So if and I'm relying on you because I'm not on smart growth and this is why I called this out. We need to keep it until I get clarification from you basically. So I have it. So I'm ready to drop this if, we'll talk to Brian, but
I mean, my understanding was in that instance, it hadn't even gone through a committee before it got to work session. So I think maybe what we're trying to say is that has to go through at least one committee meeting before it gets to even a work session. So again, we can table this to put it back to the committee. But my suggestion is they change the language, at least one committee meeting before it gets to a work session. Mayor, you had a comment?
Yes, I was going to say the same. That simply was a presentation which got spread like wildfire as if it were in the works. It was simply a presentation by the gentleman who gave it. I mean, we've sat through how many presentations about rail restoration? Three or four, and not one of them spread like wildfire like that one did. But it was simply a presentation that should have probably gone to a committee first.
Well, I think it had to do with the deadline. The deadline. There was a deadline
For
for,
application possibly.
Correct.
To even get money toward it.
correct.
So,
And I think that
it
is
may
why
have
people
that
felt that
detail.
way.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, to that point, Mayor, it was, and Mr. McGinnis, it was a deadline on their part because they wanted to fast track everything and get us to agree to something that we weren't, we didn't even know the nuts and bolts of what was going on with it. So it led to a lot of confusion. Going to one committee, I think it's a great way to do it.
Okay.
And one other thing, this council has proven that they are not going to make a quick decision. How long have we discussed, what do you call them?
Short-term rentals?
Short-term rental. How long has that been discussed?
Well-informed decisions. Okay, any public comments, questions? Okay, moving on to number 3, motion to approve the Trident Public Risk Solutions as the provider for the borough's property and casualty, AmTrust insurance for workers' comp insurance, and the state workers insurance for volunteer firefighter workers' compensation. This was the option for 2025 insurance rates and providers. We had a committee recommendation of 3-0. Any comments or questions, council? Okay, I think we have consensus on that. Any public questions or comments? Okay, number 4, discuss the 2025 meeting schedule. This was to review and discuss possible edits for the 2025 meeting schedule for Borough Council, committees, boards, and commissions, and discuss any edits to the schedule. This came with a committee recommendation of 3-0. Any comments or questions? We'll start
I
with
have a comment.
the folks that are impacted by this.
Okay, so, and I did watch the committee meeting. Thank you, Sheila, for advocating for at least to talk to me about it. I wish it was that I just went to New York one time a week. I actually go into Philly on the train 4 times a week. So I'm commuting quite often. So anyway, when I looked at this schedule, I was a bit confused of what's the problem we're trying to solve. I can't comprehend the problem we're trying to solve, but I do know it's making my life a little bit harder. So my hope would be we might be able to take this back and have some more conversation on it, try to understand what problems we're trying to solve by reworking it, and maybe we can come up with a solution that is good, you know, that we've talked through a little bit more, that's good for everyone and solves the different problems. Because like I said, I think at this point, like Brian Travis, who has the most flexible schedule, only has to be here the 1 day a week, and other people that had less flexible schedules are now moved to 2 days a week. And so things like that, I just would like to hope we can talk through this a little bit more.
What's like the big change with finance to do that? Wednesday. Yeah, we get the issue, Margaret and Joel, the issue. Finance, force Margaret on Wednesday. I'm not sure what the issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue is the flow of the meetings, and the meetings not being done on time, or even close to being done on time for that matter. The finance committee meetings never had a meeting on time all year.
But let's
And-
remember, we moved finance to the last meeting because they were running long.
They were.
And the previous committees were sitting here for some cases hours,
Correct.
waiting for that meeting to finish, which is
So-
why there was an adjustment to begin with.
Right, but now they're running on time and getting done way before time. And that's why Public Works and Finance, I believe, should be on the same day. And because they essentially go together. And then you have ACT, Parking, and Smart Growth. Well, Public Safety, Public Works, and Finance on Tuesday. Or you could flip-flop them, but
I always
More-
thought finance went last because, you know, any of the other committees could be recommending some financial purchase or decision, and then that could potentially go to the finance committee, but it sounds like that's not how it got there to begin with.
No, it got there because the meetings were running over an hour.
So
It sounds like this needs more discussion.
May I ask too, if council can't approve what's before them, can council consider approving everything that's before them except the council committee meeting changes? That way we can advertise and you'll be in compliance for January.
For the boards and commissions?
For everything. We'll run the ad, committee meetings, same as we did in 2024 for the first meeting in 2025. That way, when we come back and talk in January, if you all want to make a change to the committee meeting schedule, we can just run one ad for the committee meeting schedule with council's decision. In other words, if you want to, we need to get this out and advertised, because you have to advertise 24 hours before the public meeting. Would you consider keeping your schedule as is for January for committees and work session and business?
I'm personally okay with that.
I'd like to make one amendment to
Discussing
that.
it one more time?
I would.
Just flip-flop the Finance and Smart Growth Committee.
I think I'm not as impacted as I think, Lisa, you are on that one, so.
That would be 6 o'clock, because we have public safety at 5:30.
I would be on board with that.
So keep it as it is, except, so public safety is at 5:30, smart growth is at 6. And finance follows that?
No. Public safety, finance, and then smart growth.
Yeah, I'd rather keep it the way it is until we can have a full discussion.
Okay, we'll publish as is, and if we make changes, we'll do it in January. Can everyone get on board with that? No?
We're leaving it as is.
Well, so we can discuss it again in
Yes.
January. It has to be published.
I need like a whole mobile chart to figure this out. Sorry.
I think what council would be committing to is the same committee meeting schedule in January, and then we can make a change in February at the January meeting.
That's fine.
Okay, sounds like we have 6-0 consensus on that. Okay, moving on to the parking committee.
Motion to approve the Hotel Indigo parking plan for Chestnut Street Garage.
Okay, this is to memorialize the discussion at the previous meeting, giving the Hotel Indigo 25 spaces on the second floor of the Chestnut Street Garage and at a rate of $125 per month per space. And then they will also confirm the use of 30 unsigned spaces at $60 per day. We will review this again in 6 months and confirm with our parking software that there's some question about the $60 per day rate. So I want to make sure that maybe they're using it accurately, but this would be a 1-year term that we can amend later as well.
Comments, questions? Any public comments or questions? Okay. Next, we will move on to the Public Works Committee.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. The motion to approve a resolution for Pennsylvania 811 Safe Dig Month. We were asked to send a resolution on, which is up on the screen right now, to ask to support this and also ask residents to make sure before you even think about digging a hole to put a lamppost in or a mailbox, dial 811 to save yourself and your family and the neighborhoods. So that was a 3-0 recommendation.
Okay, any comments, questions by the rest of council? Any public comments or questions? Okay, because we have consensus for that.
All right, number 2, approve the new rate of $30 fee for processing sidewalk permits and perform inspections. Right now, when we do a sidewalk inspection, there are really no fees associated with it. And what this will do is this will cover the costs of doing the inspection, doing the reinspection, and giving the permit.
Any comments or questions? Any public comments or questions? Thank you. We have consensus.
And number 3, a motion to approve a 1-year extension of East Bradford and Aqua sewer agreement. The current contract that we have with them, there's some work that has to be done with tying in and adding on. And if I'm correct, Mr. Mitchell, is that it?
Yeah, the tying in, we're looking at metering the flows to make sure we're accurately charging the East Bradford residents at the fair rates and going that route. We looked into it and it was a little pricey for this past year. So we're looking at a different option for next year and going that route. So we're just asking for another 1-year extension and then revisit it next year with Aqua East Bradford for a longer term.
And we also talked about putting a new type of flow meter in, correct? To
Correct.
actually see what the actual flows are?
Yes, in each area where it's tied into the borough system, it'll be a temporary flow for 30 days each area.
So there was a 3-0 consent in that because right now we need to start monitoring, the flow rates from East Bradford.
Okay.
They go to Taylor Run.
I have one question. We just increased the sewer rates. What was it, 2.5%? Does that get delayed because of this extension, or does that go into effect for this too.
No,
Okay.
we did talk about that, I think briefly. It goes into this extension. Yeah,
The
increase.
fees are tied in with it, yes.
Yeah, the fees are tied in.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Public comments or questions? Okay, so we have consensus for that. Moving on to public safety and quality of life.
We just have one item on the agenda tonight, and that's for the 5-year master service agreement with Axon for the police body worn cameras and mobile video recorders. And a significant amount of this is covered by a grant. Was recommended 3-0. Sorry. 2-0, because I wasn't in attendance, but 3-0 tonight.
So, do I understand there's a 5-year plan related to this, but this is for the first year of that, or is this the whole 5-year?
This is the master service agreement for the 5-year plan for body worn cameras and mobile video recorders. And since we brought it to the committee's attention under other business, there is no official recommendation from the committee because it was a financial matter. I just want to clarify that for the record. And
So this is under the finance and revenue then? For the
correct. The purchase order appears as well under finance and revenue, which would authorize the multi-year purchase order to fund this agreement.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Public questions or comments? Right, thank you. Moving on to smart growth.
Okay. Smart Growth had a variety of HARB applications this past month, all approved by HARB. And we recommend, the two of us that were here recommend that they move through 2-0.
Okay, any questions?
Yes, Mr. McCoy and Chairperson Simone, on D, 2024-47, 1822 North High Street windows and roof replacement. Went over and took a look at the site, which we walk by almost every day, but I just never really paid attention to it. They have a logistical problem, I think, there, because they have to tear a metal roof off and there's no backyard. So safety and protection of the sidewalk, and are they going to have to close the street down for a dumpster in order to get rid of all the debris? If you ever take in a standing seam roof off and then you have to take off the wood, it brought a real question to me when I looked at it, like, there's no place to put the junk because the sidewalks is only 6 foot wide.
Is that something that would get addressed during the permitting process with the contractor?
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
I think once they get our approval, building and housing, that they can move forward with permit approval. So permit approval on that, so other logistical.
Okay, so Mr. Metric, the sidewalk closing, in order to close a sidewalk or to put a dumpster, you can't put the dumpster on the pavement. So you have to put it on High Street. So how's that going to work?
Yeah, if our plan reviewer will decide what the safest way for that job site to operate is. And I hear what you're saying. These are questions I don't know the answer to, not being.
I didn't have an answer to it, so I went and looked at it. I went, you got junk here that you got to put somewhere, and there's no backyard.
So Nicole and Patrick are right. The certificate of appropriateness is just concerning what the new look, the new materials are going to be for the windows and roof. How we go about doing it will happen through the building permit process, and we can flag this and make sure that gets addressed. It's a good thing to bring up. That's not the only property downtown that has had its roof replaced, I'm sure. So,
but that's
yep.
It only jumped out to me because it's such an integral part of the.
No, I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, right there. Yeah. That's, well, it's in between the courthouse on the west side. Then you have the
coin store.
the sweet shop. It's that building, and then you have the coin shop next to it. And then you have Starbucks on the corner. And if you go there.
Got it.
You've been there.
Got
There's
it.
nowhere to put
Got
the
it.
junk. So, I was worried about telling the person, yeah, go ahead full speed. And then we get, there's a lot more logistics there of stuff. So, but to your point, Harb said yes, but building and housing is going to come up with some kind of something to address it.
Yeah, they'll have to apply for a commercial permit that's up to 30 days review, but we'll turn it around quicker than that.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Any public comments or questions? Thank you. Moving on to finance and revenue.
Motion to sponsor CRC Watersheds Association 2025 cleanup. It's a $500 sponsorship, and that supports the 27th annual streams cleanup on March 29th, 2025. That was a 2-to-1 vote.
Okay, so I was the one, and I will explain why. So, first of all, I was involved. I took part as a volunteer during this event last year. It's a very worthy event. I put on what I will call my funter boots, my fake hunter boots that I bought at market, and went into the creek and picked up a ton of trash. Heavy trash bags, a couple of them, 2 or 3. Great event, lots of good volunteers. That said, and I'm going to volunteer for it again this year. And also, just so you know, before I even say about what I think the borough should do, I've already put my money where my mouth is, and CRC will be getting some money as a donation for me at the end of the year with a company match that's following with it. So they're getting money from me. It's not about the money. It's about the idea of the borough sponsoring events. And my opinion is that the borough should not be in the process or in the position of sponsoring events and becoming having people come to us and having us judge whether or not an event is worth sponsoring. After our meeting last week, Barb pulled data for me. The only sponsorship that we do is, I guess, for the downtown Westchester, for the up on the roof, is it? Yeah, that's the only sponsorship that we have been doing for years. What we did do for this particular event last year is we had our Public Works team out, and they actually collected those super heavy trash bags that we put at the side of the creek after we collected them. They came out, they were paid overtime, they participated in the event to support it and to get that trash out of there, so I did not have to lug heavy trash bags for 2 blocks, bags that I wouldn't have been able to carry. And what I would propose, as opposed to opening up the floodgates of sponsorship asks to us, especially after we just nailed down the event fee ask issue, I'd say, why don't we just continue to follow what we've been doing and support the event through our participation as participants collecting the trash and doing things like that. So that's kind of my position and why I'm not for sponsoring, I'm for taking part in.
Barb, do you have an update on that? I know I asked you for an update on what we pay our public works workers and what the latest would be for 2025.
So I did a quick estimate based on the information that I had on hand from last year, because I don't have it for next year, but I estimated a cost of about almost $535.60 for 3 public works employees for around 12 hours for that particular event.
And that cost is going to probably go up every year with a contract, right?
Correct.
And that's overtime?
Yes.
So if we look at that, I think $500 is a no-brainer. It goes to our sustainability mission. We've also sponsored this event prior to, and we actually benefit from the stream cleanup. So I think $500, because if we're going to keep sending people there, then that's going to go up exponentially every year.
I disagree. It's not just about the money. It's about if we send people there, there's more of an impact from this event on our borough because we have people there helping to get the event accomplished and helping to clean up more trash. More people means we're cleaning up more and doing more specifically for the borough. If we just sponsor it, yeah, I mean, it's a great organization. Like I said, I already put my money where my mouth is, but it's not just for the borough. This event, if we have people there and the cost is equivalent almost to what you're recommending, we're getting more out of it if we put our people there to help support our residents. And it shows that we're really truly on board with supporting this and not just dropping some money because, you know, putting ourselves on a t-shirt, which, as I've said to actually someone, a member of the CRC, I'm not sure we should have t-shirts for this event because t-shirts tend to get thrown away, donated, and they end up on beaches in Ghana, and maybe that's not good for their waterways. But nonetheless, I still hold my position that as opposed to just throwing money at it and opening us up for sponsorship requests coming from all sorts of events, that we should continue our support by actually putting hands on the ground and actually helping to clean up the trash in our creeks on that day.
So Nicole, I'm a little confused. Are you suggesting that we don't sponsor but send Public Works employees?
As we have been, yes.
Okay.
So, if we were to sponsor it, the $500 goes to whom?
CRC, which is everywhere. It goes to a variety of communities. Yeah, I forget all the different counties that it's involved in. Yeah, it says it up there. Just so it's not.
Are we?
So are you telling us then we would not send our Public Works people to pick up the bags? Then this $500 would be offset by the committee picking up the bags and taking them wherever they would take them? Is that your suggestion?
My suggestion?
Is that what you're saying?
No, my suggestion is if we send the sponsorship, that's going to be much cheaper than sending our public works workers that are getting overtime. And again, those contracts are going to go up every year.
So you're saying that we would not send Public Works people to pick up the big heavy bags, then how would they then be removed?
Other volunteers.
I disagree with you, Mr. McGinnis. And I agree with Ms. Simone on two points. It's been the position of council not to sponsor outside events because as you said, it opens up the floodgates and you have to decide which way or the other. And we are basically only picking up the trash in our 1.8 square miles. We're not going down to other areas. So we already are contributing over $500 by labor and then also disposing of the trash. So it's well in excess of the $500. And I agree with Ms. Simone on it.
Do we sponsor this today? Did we sponsor it in the past? So they asked us for us to start sponsoring it.
No, we have sponsored it in the past.
Barb,
So when I did a research on this particular vendor, the last time we actually made a physical check to them was back in 2020. However, in years since then, we have council has voted to send Public Works employees to the event. So you could argue that while we didn't physically, cut a check for that, we did pay our employees to still attend this event.
Okay. So, and the events that we do sponsor, like the Preservation Awards, like Up on the Roof, how is that different than, those are Westchester bid, if you will, events or Westchester Borough events versus this is a separate entity? Is that what we're saying? Like, we're physically cut a check to bid as well for Up on the Roof. We physically cut a check to Westchester Preservation Awards to sponsor those events, correct?
Correct.
and that's it, I think. And to your point, that's kind of the differentiator. It's
I mean, I'm in favor of continuing to support them through the
Public
police
Works.
and public works. Yeah, assisting with getting the trash out, et cetera. Sponsoring it. I mean, it does have an indirect benefit. Obviously, we are cleaning it up. Our sustainability group, we're doing best management practices. That's all to get clean water. However, I think in this instance, I would want to set the precedent and but continue to support them through the equivalent of, $500 or $600 in overtime with the Public Works Department.
I'm aligned to that. I mean, we are indirectly sponsoring it by providing labor.
I'm in agreement. I think that we are in a unique position. We have people who know how to pick up trash and trucks that can move it. If we all want to write a $500 check, we can all do that, or we don't have to. But I don't think I think the borough should use its unique position to support this cause in the way that we are unique, and we have our public works workers who are very good at this, and that is how we are going to support them, in my opinion.
Any public comments or questions? Further discussion? We put this for discussion for voting session tomorrow?
I think the thing that's in order is to move this to discussion, since there's obviously not general consensus to approve this, and then vote. We take our votes at the business meeting on matters.
Thank you. Moving on. Number 2.
Motion to approve resolution for real estate tax 2025. I mean, there's a 3-0 committee recommendation.
Since it's not changing, we can do it by resolution instead of having a hearing and advertising an ordinance.
Okay. Any comments or questions? Public comments or questions? All right. We have consent.
Did I miss the rate?
The rate is on the resolution.
It's on the second page, Bill.
And this has not changed from prior year. Okay, moving on to number 3.
Motion to approve the 2025 fee schedule. That was a 3-0 decision.
I can go over the changes that are on the fee schedule. We are adding the special event fee that council previously approved. So that's $129 for public works employees, $180 for police. We're also adding a $44 per unit fee for short-term rentals. And we are updating some language on the last page under where it states return check fee. We'd like to add a return payment fee because we have found that we have customers coming into the office making payments on tickets and other things with their credit card, and then they call their credit card company to dispute those charges. So we just want to make sure that we have payment on there so that it doesn't just mean a return check fee. And then one final item that we're updating this fee schedule with is the sidewalk permits that was previously discussed on Public Works. We're adding a $30 fee for the repair and installation of the sidewalks.
Any questions, comments? Any public questions or comments? Okay, we have
Can I ask
consensus.
one quick? If we need to change fees for building and housing inspection permits, that's going to be okay, correct? Like, how does that?
I don't think we'd have the data to be able to do that for at least 6 months of, ongoing invoices and so forth. So that'll be a delayed decision.
Thank you.
Question, Mr. McCoy, to your point, Mr. Vaquero, Mr. Metric, as we move into a third party doing all of our inspections now, how are we going to be able to relay to the end user that the fee schedule has increased based on usage of the third party being more expensive than our people?
I want to correct one thing I just heard, and that is that using the third party is going to be more expensive than our current fee schedule. In fact, the third party's fees that they're charging it are almost completely aligned with our current permit fee schedules. And there's a little bit of a difference in the way that the fee schedule from the consultant calculates the fee that they charge the borough for the permit, and the way the way the borough calculates the fee that it charges the person applying for the fee. If we see a big difference in that, we're going to be looking at this in the first 3-4 weeks. If we see a big difference in that, you're going to hear from us in January. And it won't be a big change. There'll be a change at the margin to align the borough's fees that it charges applicants so that it is money in and money out when we pay for our third party services. Does that make sense?
A little bit. Initially, because they're an outside entity, they would, under their rules, you know, they're not, they are not a nonprofit company. They're there to make money. So that's why they're doing us a favor right now, coming in and letting us hire them. So why would, I was under the impression that they were going to just rubber stamp our fees because their employees may be on a different pay level.
We have their fees. We have their fees that they're going to charge us in our left hand and our fee schedule in our right hand. And we've compared those, and they're pretty well aligned, but they aren't exactly aligned. What the third party does different than the borough does is charge a flat rate minimum fee. We have to see how that plays out over 20, 30 transactions. And if we start getting misaligned on revenue that we're getting billed and revenue that's coming in to pay for that, then we'll have an issue. There's a lot of moving parts right now in building and housing.
Will that be transparent for Mr. McGinnis to be able to look at it, and his committee to look at it?
That's fair. That's fair. We can
by
get reports.
February or March.
Sure.
That way there,
Yeah.
you know, we're not, you know,
Yeah.
stuck holding monies that we could actually pass on.
Yeah, you'll be looking at the same reports I am.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Public comments or questions? Okay. Moving on.
Motion to approve the following purchase requests, items A through G. They made the agenda because they exceeded over $10,000, and the committee recommendation was 3-0.
So I do have one question that a constituent brought to me this past week regarding universal rackets. So the question was just how is that? That's the pickleball contract, and that we're reimbursing. My understanding is we're reimbursing the pickleball, the instructor. But how the question was kind of how did that contract come about? It stemmed from the cost of the pickleball classes were actually quite high, and are there other ways that our parks could be used with less expensive classes for our residents, things like that? That's kind of where the questions came about. So really, how did this contract come about? Did this person come to us and say, "Hey, I got a great idea. I can teach pickleball in your park, and I'll give you a cut"? And we were like, "Sure." Or did we say we want to have pickleball being taught, and we went out to a bunch of pickleball instructors and bid it out, and this person stuck? Or like, how did that all come? Does anyone know?
I think
So-
we're gonna have to ask Keith about that.
I don't have that information on hand, but I could do some research and I could have an answer for you tomorrow.
Okay, that would be great. Yeah, so again, I think that it goes back to the advocacy for our residents. Are we putting in prime time, and I don't know when all these classes are taught, but are we putting in prime time classes that are expensive, that, you know, there's an opportunity to have less expensive courses for our residents? I don't know, but thanks, Barb, for doing some relay and getting Keith's thoughts.
Sean, do we want to table this for tomorrow then? We can table Item 4, the entire thing.
I don't think we're going to be able to get the explanation that Councilperson Shimoni is looking for tomorrow, because that's an explanation, I think, of what's our routine when we contract with third parties that conduct classes in borough parks. And there's lots of relationships like that happening. And I would feel really comfortable if Keith could lead that conversation for everybody. He's out today and tomorrow.
So this invoice, if there's a signed contract that we have 30 days to pay it?
Yeah, and what I relayed to the constituent that asked is my understanding is this for past classes that were taught and we're just paying back the instructor for their cut? Or is this for upcoming for the future?
Roughly stated, the classes are signed up for through our software. The payment is made to the borough, and then there's an agreement where some of that revenue goes to the third party running the class, and the borough retains some of that revenue. I'd like Keith to explain that.
Yeah, yes, that I kind of comprehend. But my question for this particular bill, to answer Brian's question, is this bill for the 11,000 based off of classes that were taught this past June, July, August? Yeah. So what I told the constituent is, I mean, we probably already owe this money. So I don't think we have to wait to pay the person that we owe. I do think that it would be good to get the details so that if we're looking to do something for 2025, we have a little bit more information so that we can make better decisions. But I don't think this person should be, we already made the contract. We already said we were going to pay them. Like, I don't think we have to wait on that one.
Okay.
So Mike, I guess I just have one brief question. Barb, did you say you have, since this is over the $10,000, was this, how was this looked at? Did he run this contract by who? Who was this run by? Did he just give you the contract? How did this happen?
So I have a contract that was signed and dated back in January of 2024. I don't have the exact details as to how this all came about, but I have it on for approval because it is over $10,000, and I can't pay the bill until I have approval on that. But to Sean's point, we can get more information and have Keith explain that.
But I guess my real question is this something that should have come to the committee first?
I mean, it is a professional services agreement that the borough manager can sign off on.
With third
All right,
parties.
one person at a time, please.
For clarification, what committee? The Parks and Recreation under Public Works? Because it comes through finance for approval, so it should have went through Parks and Recreation.
Yeah,
under Public
and
Works.
as far as I know,
You haven't heard
I
anything?
never saw it.
So then I think that we should take this one item out until we figure out the details.
So I just would want to put one caveat in there is that we do owe this vendor this money because these classes have, they've already gone past the time limit. So I just would like to put that.
I do think that this goes back to that question as to whether or not things go to finance or public works. This was approved last year, therefore this should have just gone through public works. I don't know how it ended up on finance and not public works. That's an issue that we need to resolve. I don't think paying this bill should be halted in any way. I think we're all here, except for Brian Travis. I think we're all in agreement that this bill should be paid. Thank you for bringing this up. Thank you for discussing this, but I think we need to push this through.
I agree. It could be the vendor didn't send an invoice out. I mean, I don't think we know that answer.
I mean, it goes through August.
Yeah, so we have a procedural issue that we need to resolve. I agree with everyone. We need to pay this invoice, but we need to get clarity on how these things get through and who approves them, right? And how they get before council. It sounds like you've got 7 plus the mayor, or yeah, 7 people, including the mayor, up here who are a little surprised by this whole pickleball thing and how it transpired. So if we can agree to pay the bill as it is on the agenda tonight, but take an action item to understand and get clarity on the procedure.
However, I do object to a bill being executed in the summer and we don't get it until December. And then it's stated as if it's the council's problem to pay it expeditiously when somewhere along the line, this ball has been dropped.
Well, I mean, I don't think that the internal workings of the process of council or the vendors concerned, yeah, they may have gotten that out late. I don't know what the issue is. Bottom line is we're going to approve this invoice, but we want to get, sort of full accounting and history of the transaction for, I assume it'll go through Act and Finance next month.
Well, I mean, technically it should go through Public Works
It should have been on Public Works.
and Parks and Rec.
The president can assign it to. the
Public
committee.
Works is the appropriate.
It's his
Yeah.
power.
And it looks like it was signed in so don't have anybody sign anything like this until we talk about the process. Like if this guy that runs the pickleball, the instructor comes back and says, let's do it again. We got to talk through it first and understand what's going on before we sign this. If was that Keith's signature, that was the second signature? Whose signature was the second one? Who is that? Does anyone know whose signature that is?
I know the first signature is Mr. Strovak's signature.
Who's the Borough of Westchester representative that signed this?
I'm assuming that's Keith, but I can't say. That should be Keith's signature at the bottom, Mr. Krowski.
Okay, so we should have an understanding of what our signatures look like too.
Okay, so we're moving this to next month's,
I think he is, yeah.
moving this to next month's.
Well, hold on, Mr. McCoy, we have a certain time limit that we have to actually pay bills in, right, Barb? Was it every 60 days by law, we have to pay bills?
So these classes have,
Well,
they've already occurred.
Yeah.
So,
but
I mean, essentially.
It looks like Keith signed it. If you get down to the bottom. it looks like
January.
He just now signed it by the date.
No, I thought that was January date that he signed
Oh, that
it.
was January's date? Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So if
There you
that's,
go.
yeah, January, that looks like the
He
9th.
executed it.
Yeah, so if another one comes to Keith, please tell him to hold off until we talk through this process.
Yeah.
But I'm also, like everyone else has said, I'm okay with paying the bill. It's in the past. It happened. This person said.
Yes. Moving on, item 5.
Approve the purchasing request for USALCO, $12,540, and that's for phosphorus removal. 3-0 decision.
Any questions or comments? Public questions or comments? Moving on.
A motion to approve purchasing request for Axon Enterprises. That is the body cameras for the police department. 3-0 decision.
Questions or comments? Public questions or comments? Okay, thank you. Is there any other business? Okay, seeing none, we are adjourned at 8:06.